Dr. Monica Hayes stepped into the Federal Internal Security Building in Washington, D.C., and within minutes she would be in handcuffs. Not because she had done anything wrong, but because Sergeant Mike Patterson was about to make the biggest mistake of his 20-year career. But here's what Patterson didn't know. The woman he was watching wasn't just any visitor. She held 3 advanced degrees: MIT Computer Engineering, Georgetown Criminology, FBI National Academy Security Certification. She had stopped terrorist attacks, prevented cyber warfare, and protected America's most classified facilities. And today she was his new boss. The morning sun reflected off the glass facade as Monica stepped out of her black sedan at 8 a.m. She had specifically chosen civilian clothes, dark jeans, navy blazer, no visible federal credentials. This wasn't an oversight. This was a test. You see, Monica was conducting what security experts call a red team assessment, deliberately approaching the building like a potential threat to identify weaknesses. What she was about to discover would shock her more than any security vulnerability she had ever encountered. Sergeant Patterson watched from the security station as the black woman entered the lobby. 20 years of police work had taught him to spot suspicious behavior, or so he thought. She wasn't walking like a typical visitor. She was taking notes, moving with purpose, studying the building. "Jake," Patterson nudged his partner, Officer Collins. "See that woman? She's been casing the place for 10 minutes. Maybe she's lost? Look at her movements. That's not lost. That's surveillance." Monica was indeed studying everything. The outdated metal detectors, poorly positioned cameras, blind spots in security coverage. In her mind, she was already drafting urgent upgrade recommendations. But she had no idea she was about to become the subject of an arrest report instead. And here's the first clue Patterson missed. Monica moved through that lobby with the confidence of someone who belonged there. Because she did. Patterson grabbed his radio and reported suspicious activity. A black female conducting surveillance activities in the federal building. Monica heard the radio chatter and knew what was coming. In her 15 years of federal security work, she had seen this scenario play out countless times. The difference was, she was usually the one giving the orders, not receiving them. Patterson approached with that authoritative tone designed to intimidate, demanding identification and an explanation for her presence. Monica remained calm, explaining she was conducting a routine security assessment for federal security. Here's where things get interesting. Monica could have ended this immediately by flashing her federal credentials, but she didn't. Why? Because she was learning something valuable about her building's security protocols, something that would change everything. Patterson's suspicion deepened. Too vague, too evasive. In his experience, real federal agents led with badges and specific agency names. He demanded more specific information about which agency she represented. Monica reached for her credentials, but that simple movement triggered Patterson's street cop instincts. His hand went to his weapon as he barked orders for her to keep her hands visible. Every person in that lobby turned to stare. Federal employees stopped mid-conversation. Security cameras recorded every and Monica realized she was about to become the star of the most embarrassing first day at work story in federal history. Monica tried to explain she was reaching for the identification he had requested, but Patterson was already committed to his course of action. He ordered her to step away from her bag and put her hands behind her head. Now here's what you need to understand about Dr. Monica Hayes. She had faced down international terrorists. She had negotiated with cyber criminals. She had protected presidential visits and secured nuclear facilities. But nothing in her training had prepared her for being arrested by her own security team. Monica attempted one final explanation about the misunderstanding, requesting permission to show her credentials, but Patterson was reading her Miranda rights as the handcuffs clicked around her wrists. The handcuffs clicked around her wrists. The irony was suffocating. She was being arrested for trying to protect the same building these officers were supposed to be securing. Collins looked uncertain about the escalation, suggesting they should check her identification first, but Patterson remained firm in his decision. This was a federal facility, and he wasn't taking any chances. As they led her through the lobby, Monica caught glimpses of federal employees, who would soon be her subordinates, all watching their new boss being perp-walked past the information desk. The situation had gone from embarrassing to career-threatening in less than 5 minutes, but Patterson had no idea he was about to learn the most expensive lesson of his life. In the cramped security office, surrounded by outdated monitoring equipment, the formal questioning began. Patterson asked for her full name, to which Monica responded with her title and academic credentials. Dr. Monica Hayes, with degrees in computer engineering and criminology. That gave Patterson pause. Too specific for a random troublemaker. Too professional for someone making false claims. When pressed about her federal agency affiliation, Monica identified herself as Department of Homeland Security, Critical Infrastructure Protection Division. Collins stopped writing. Unsettled by the specificity of her response, Patterson pressed further, asking about her purpose in the building. Monica explained she was conducting a pre-operational security assessment of the facility. The critical question came next. On whose authority was she conducting this assessment? Monica looked directly at Patterson, and for the first time, he saw something in her eyes that made him deeply uncomfortable. Not fear, not anger. Authority. She stated simply that she was acting on her own authority as the newly appointed director of security for this building. The pen dropped from Collins's hand. The room went silent. Patterson stared at her, his mind racing through the implications of what she had just said. Think about this moment. If she was telling the truth, Patterson had just arrested his new boss. If she was lying, she was committing a federal crime. Either way, his career was about to take a dramatic turn. Patterson challenged her claim, asking if she was really claiming to be the new security director. Monica's response was calm and definitive. She wasn't claiming anything, she was stating a fact. As of today, she was the director of security for this building. Let's pause here and understand what's really happening. Patterson built his entire assessment of Hayes on assumptions. Her race, her age, her civilian clothing, her gender. What he failed to recognize was that he was looking at someone whose security clearance was higher than his supervisors, whose expertise in protecting federal facilities was why she had been personally selected by the Department of Homeland Security for this critical position. We're going to need to verify that, Patterson said, though his voice had lost its earlier confidence. That's exactly what I've been trying to let you do. My credentials are in my blazer pocket. My federal ID badge is in my purse, both of which you prevented me from showing you. Collins carefully retrieved Monica's identification. The moment he saw the official Department of Homeland Security credentials with her photograph and top-secret clearance level, his face drained of color. Sergeant. His voice barely worked. She's telling the truth. Patterson looked at the credentials. Dr. Monica Hayes, Director of Security, Federal Internal Security Building, clearance level, top secret, direct report, Deputy Director Williams. His 20-year career flashed before his eyes. Dr. Hayes, Patterson's voice was completely different now. We need to remove these handcuffs immediately.
Yes, you do.
And then I need to call Deputy Director Williams. As Collins unlocked the handcuffs, Monica's phone rang. Deputy Director Williams. She had missed her scheduled orientation meeting. Dr. Hayes, where are you? You were supposed to be here 30 minutes ago. I was conducting an unscheduled security assessment and encountered complications with building security personnel. What kind of complications? I was arrested for suspicious activity. The silence on the other end was deafening. Williams had been in federal law enforcement for 25 years. He understood exactly what had happened. Put me on speaker, Dr. Hayes. The phone crackled to life. Gentlemen, did you just arrest the new director of security for this building? Patterson cleared his throat. Sir, we didn't know who she was. She was acting suspiciously. Did she try to show you identification? She reached for her pocket, but we interpreted that as potentially threatening. Williams's sigh filled the office. I'll be there in 10 minutes. Both of you stay put. Now here's what makes this story different from typical wrongful arrest scenarios. What happened next would determine not just the fate of Patterson and Collins, but the future of federal security at one of America's most critical buildings. Deputy Director Williams arrived with federal security agents and building administration. The cramped office suddenly felt very crowded with very serious people. Dr. Hayes, report. Monica stood professionally. Sir, I identified multiple security vulnerabilities during my assessment. Outdated detection systems, surveillance blind spots, and personnel protocols that prioritize assumptions over verification. Williams turned to Patterson. Your side. Sir, we observed suspicious behavior and detained the subject when she made what we interpreted as a threatening movement. Did Dr. Hayes resist? No, sir. She was cooperative. Did she refuse identification? Patterson hesitated. She reached for identification, but we stopped her. Williams looked around the room. So, Hayes, one of the country's most experienced security experts, was arrested for doing her job by security personnel who prevented her from proving her identity. The silence was crushing. Dr. Hayes, your recommendation? Complete security overhaul, starting with personnel retraining. Williams nodded. Approved. Full authority. But here's where the story takes an unexpected turn. Patterson stepped forward. Sir, Dr. Hayes, we made a serious error today. But if you're overhauling security, you need people who know this building. We screwed up, but we know these operations. Monica studied his face. After years of security work, she could distinguish between people sorry they got caught and people who genuinely understood their mistakes. Sergeant Patterson, why did you make those assumptions about me? Patterson took a breath. Honest answer? Because I got lazy. 20 years of police work, and I started profiling based on stereotypes instead of actual threat indicators. I saw a black woman taking notes and jumped to conclusions, and proper protocol would have been: ask for identification first, check credentials, verify before escalating. Monica turned to Williams. Sir, I want to retain both officers. Williams looked surprised. After today? Because of today. Sergeant Patterson acknowledged his bias and committed to change. Officer Collins learned to question decisions that feel wrong. These are exactly the qualities I need. She looked at both officers. But you'll undergo comprehensive retraining. Federal security protocols, bias awareness, threat assessment. And if there's ever another incident like this, your federal careers are over. Both officers nodded. Williams smiled. Dr. Hayes, this is why you were chosen for this position. 6 months later, the Federal Internal Security Building underwent the most comprehensive security transformation in its history. Patterson became one of Monica's most dedicated officers, his experience combined with proper training making him invaluable. Collins was promoted to training coordinator. The incident became a federal case study, not of failure, but of reform. A year later, Hayes received a Department of Homeland Security commendation for exceptional leadership in transforming federal security protocols while maintaining civil rights compliance. During her award speech, she said, "True security protects everyone equally. When security protocols are tainted by bias, they become vulnerabilities, not strength." Patterson approached her afterward. Dr. Hayes, thank you for the second chance. Monica smiled. Sergeant, you didn't need a second chance. You needed better training and the opportunity to be the professional you were capable of becoming. Any advice for officers facing similar situations? Remember that your job is to protect people, not judge them. When someone enters a federal building, your first thought should be, how can I help? Not, are they a threat? She paused, looking at the transformed security operation. And remember that the person you're questioning today might be your supervisor tomorrow, not because of their authority, but because competence comes in all colors, ages, and background. The Federal Internal Security Building stands today as one of the most secure facilities in the country, not despite that first-day incident, but because of how it was handled. 3 years after the incident, Monica's transformation of federal building security had become a model studied across government agencies. The building she had been arrested in now hosted international delegations seeking to understand American approaches to integrated security management. Monica's methodology became known as the Hayes Protocol, a comprehensive approach that balanced maximum security with constitutional rights and professional dignity. Federal facilities from New York to California implemented variations of her system, always with emphasis on the human element of security. The incident itself became required viewing at the Federal Law Enforcement Training Center in Georgia. New recruits watched security footage from that day, followed by interviews with both Monica and Patterson as part of their bias awareness and de-escalation training. Patterson, now a senior training instructor, often told his story to packed auditoriums of federal security personnel. His transformation from the officer who arrested his boss to one of her most trusted team leaders became a powerful example of professional growth and redemption. During one such presentation at the National Security Conference in Las Vegas, Patterson stood before 500 federal agents and security professionals. He began with the same words every time. 3 years ago, I made the worst professional decision of my career. I arrested a woman for being black in a federal building. The audience always shifted uncomfortably at his directness. Patterson never softened the impact of his words. That discomfort was intentional. He would continue. I told myself I was being thorough. I told myself I was following protocol. I told myself I was protecting federal security. But the truth is, I saw a black woman with a notebook, and my 20 years of unconscious bias told me she was a threat. I was wrong about everything, except one thing. She was indeed a threat. She was a threat to my comfortable assumptions, my lazy policing, and my unchecked prejudices. The presentations always included a detailed breakdown of what went wrong and why. Patterson would walk through his thought process, step by step, identifying each moment where bias overruled proper procedure. He showed how racial profiling had masked itself as security consciousness, how fear had disguised itself as caution. But the most powerful part of his presentation came when Monica joined him on stage. Their professional partnership, forged from that disastrous first encounter, demonstrated something remarkable: how institutions could transform through accountability rather than just punishment. Monica would address the audience with the same calm authority she had shown in handcuffs that first day. Officer Patterson made serious errors in judgment, but the system failed before he did. We had inadequate training, unclear protocols, and no mechanism for recognizing unconscious bias in security decisions. She would pause, looking across the sea of federal personnel. The choice wasn't whether to fire Officer Patterson. The choice was whether to use this incident to fix systemic problems or to pretend they didn't exist by simply removing one person. Their joint presentations always ended with practical application. Monica and Patterson would run scenarios with audience members, demonstrating proper identification verification, de-escalation techniques, and bias recognition exercises. They showed how real security professionals could protect facilities while respecting the constitutional rights of all visitors. The impact extended beyond federal buildings. Local police departments began requesting the Hayes Protocol training. University security departments implemented modified versions for campus safety. Even private corporate security firms adopted elements of the program. Monica's influence grew beyond building security. She was appointed to the Department of Homeland Security's Civil Rights Advisory Committee, where she helped draft new guidelines for federal law enforcement interactions. Her expertise in balancing security needs with constitutional protections made her a sought-after consultant for agencies struggling with similar challenges. The building itself became a showcase for integrated security technology. Monica had overseen the installation of biometric access systems, advanced surveillance networks, and artificial intelligence-powered threat assessment tools. But the technology was always secondary to the human training component. Visitors to the building now encountered security personnel who approached their duties with professionalism and respect. The same lobby where Monica had been arrested became an example of how federal security should operate. Thorough but not intimidating, comprehensive but not discriminatory. The transformation wasn't without challenges. Some veteran security personnel resisted the new protocols, arguing that political correctness was compromising safety. Monica addressed these concerns directly, using data to demonstrate that proper identification procedures actually improved security outcomes while reducing the risk of civil rights violations. She instituted quarterly reviews where security decisions were analyzed for both effectiveness and bias. Personnel who showed consistent improvement in applying the new protocols were rewarded with additional training opportunities and leadership positions. Those who couldn't or wouldn't adapt were reassigned to positions with less public interaction. The success of the Hayes Protocol attracted attention from international security professionals. Delegations from Canada, the United Kingdom, and Germany visited the building to study the integration of bias awareness with security. Monica found herself presenting at international conferences on democratic policing and constitutional security. One particularly memorable presentation was at the International Association of Chiefs of Police Conference in Chicago. Monica stood before an audience that included police chiefs from around the world, many of whom were grappling with similar issues of bias in law enforcement. She began with a simple statement: effective security requires trust, and trust requires treating every person with dignity, regardless of their race, gender, age, or appearance. When security personnel make decisions based on bias rather than behavior, they compromise both safety and public trust. She used her own arrest as a case study, showing how bias had created security vulnerabilities rather than addressing them. Patterson's assumptions had prevented proper identification verification, created unnecessary public spectacle, and exposed the building to genuine security risks, while focusing on an imaginary threat. The presentation included video analysis of the incident, with Monica providing commentary on each decision point where different training might have led to better outcomes. She demonstrated how proper protocols could have identified her credentials within minutes while maintaining appropriate security awareness. But perhaps the most powerful element of these presentations was witnessing the partnership between Monica and Patterson. Here were two people who had experienced one of the most dramatic professional conflicts possible, yet had found a way to transform that conflict into collaborative leadership. During Q&A sessions, audience members frequently asked about the personal dynamic between them. How had they moved past the initial incident? How had trust been rebuilt? What lessons could other organizations learn about recovery from serious professional mistakes? Monica always answered first: trust isn't rebuilt through words. It's rebuilt through consistent actions over time. Officer Patterson didn't just apologize for his errors. He committed to learning from them and helping others avoid the same mistakes. That commitment, demonstrated daily through his work, earned back my respect. Patterson would add, Hayes could have ended my career that day, and she would have been justified. Instead, she chose to end my ignorance. She invested in my growth rather than my punishment. That investment didn't just save my career, it transformed how I understand law enforcement and public service. Their story became a template for how organizations could address racial bias without destroying careers or avoiding accountability. It demonstrated that transformation was possible when leadership committed to genuine change rather than cosmetic adjustment. The impact on the federal building's culture was measurable. Employee satisfaction surveys showed dramatic improvements in perceptions of workplace safety and respect. Visitor feedback indicated higher confidence in security professionalism. Incident reports involving discrimination allegations dropped to near zero. But the most significant change was harder to quantify. The building had become a place where diversity was seen as a strength rather than a challenge. Security personnel from various racial and ethnic backgrounds found themselves welcomed and valued for their different perspectives on community engagement and threat assessment. Monica's success in transforming building culture led to her appointment as Regional Director of Federal Building Security, overseeing similar transformations across the southeastern United States. She brought Patterson with her as Deputy Director of Training, recognizing his unique ability to connect with veteran officers who might resist change. Together, they developed a comprehensive curriculum that became the standard for federal security training. The program combined technical security skills with communication training, bias awareness, and constitutional law. Graduates of the program were highly sought after by federal agencies and private security firms. The ripple effects extended into their personal lives as well. Monica found herself speaking at law schools about the intersection of security and civil rights. Patterson became a featured speaker at police academies, sharing his transformation story with new recruits. When security professionals asked Hayes about that day, she says, "The most important upgrade wasn't to our technology, it was to our understanding that true security serves everyone equally." And when they ask Patterson about his transformation, he replies, "I learned that being wrong doesn't define you. What defines you is what you do after you realize you were wrong." This story proves that even the most difficult situations can become opportunities for growth when approached with integrity and the commitment to do better. Sometimes the best way to fix a broken system isn't to replace everyone, it's to give good people the tools and knowledge they need to succeed. The building serves as proof that real change is possible when leadership has the courage to address problems directly, while maintaining the belief that people can grow, learn, and become better than their worst moments.